Okay, we started the idea of every other meeting, a pilot give a little presentation of just about anything he wants to present on.
Oh my gosh.
And John's going to do this week. And so the weekend, let's see, so the 18th, October 18th will be the next other meeting that we would have a speech. And we need to think about who would like to volunteer for that.
I volunteer you.
I second that motion.
There you go.
I third it.
That's
Okay,
it.
everybody will bring a lunch. There's a lot to talk about. Well, I'm not going to adjourn the meeting. We'll have the drawing after John presents. Anybody needs to go to the bathroom, we'll take about 2 minutes for
Yeah,
grab a
everybody take
Coke
care
and
of
go to
all
the
that
bathroom.
business, 'cause I gotta wrap up his speech.
Okay, good. How's that sound? All right, Mr. Hammond. Colonel, you got it.
I almost called you at 2,000 feet when you were landing here.
I'll tell you what, this kind of, nobody,
Okay.
I got singled out.
Hey, guys.
Hey,
We have a speaker.
But anyway, everybody in here's got a story, and we all know each other, but we don't really know each other. So I thought maybe just a brief history of what's been going on in my life and how I got started in aviation. And it's probably boring to everybody, but I learned about aviation still. You know, everything I did that was wrong, you put that away up here as, I wish I hadn't done that and don't ever do it again. There's been a lot of those. My aviation career started with models. I was a farm boy, raised on the farm I got right now. No connection to aviation, no way to get to the nearest airport, which I believe was a little grass strip in Jacksonville, Texas. And started with models, 10 cents. I could go to the dime store and buy a model. You had to cut out every piece. I had no idea about how it flew, so I crashed at most of them. And then finally read the instructions, had a little diagram about where to put the weight. And the first time it flew, I was so excited. It still crashed. But my first ride was when I got out of high school. I went to Tyler and started college, started work. And my sister had a roommate that had a boss that had an airplane, Navion, 260 Lycoming. M. Oliver was his name. He little, tiny, thin mustache. He was from Pomona, California, and acted like it, you know. And they called him Buzzing M. Oliver because he never got higher than trees when he flew. That was my first ride. And I thought it was all just okay to be just above the trees and chase water skiers and everything else. Buzz the airport when we got back. I found out that wasn't right. Now that's pretty big. So I got a job, started working, could finally afford $4 a week, and that would give me 30 minutes in a Cessna 140. With the flight instructor or without the flight instructor. So that's mostly what I did. Then I got hanging around the airport so much, I got a ride from the guys that were on the GI Bill. They'd all see me and give me a ride. And I'd worked a little at the airport on the weekends and I'd get a little time. So I finally got my license and I got finished with junior college. I enlisted in the Air Force, the cadet program. I don't know how I heard about that. I did. So here's a brand new farm boy, you know, with all these other guys. I was always the youngest of everything in school or wherever I was. And I was the youngest guy in my cadet class. And we got an octave, went to Lackland, hated every minute of it, you know. Got out and went to Bainbridge, Georgia for primary training. And I was a private pilot by then. I knew everything. And the first flight in the T-34 with my flight instructor, we had a wonderful flight instructor. Had them all through the Fire Force except one. We got the flight and I said, I know how to do this. Boy, this dude got this thing off the ground. He's not saying a word. I'm doing good. Leveled it off, went out through there like that, turned out of traffic. And this quiet voice came over the interphone and says, "Mr. Hammond, this aircraft will generally cruise faster and climb better if you will retract the gear." I've flown with those before. I never did like the T-34. Never liked it. I wouldn't. I did some stuff in it that I wouldn't dare do now, knowing about bonanza wings. You know, got the T-28. Loved every second of it. Wonderful airplane. Beautiful. I got out of that. Went to Lubbock, Texas. B-25s. Had the most horrible flight instructor you ever see in your life. And I was a little ahead of time because some guy they all had a good laugh at me. They put me in the right seat of a Beech 18 and told me to try to taxi it. Well, of course, it took a big ramp, you know, and everybody's hooting and hollering and giving me instructions. And I finally got to where I could turn the thing around, you know. B-25, the first task was we flew down to Hobbs, New Mexico. First task was drive up to the edge of the ramp, turn the B-25 around, and head it straight out and stop it with the nose wheel straight ahead. Now, it didn't have steering, it had brakes and engines. And I did it. And he says, "Again." And I did it again. Again. I did it again. He said, "You're out." And he put the next guy in, was named Hannah. And Hannah was the culprit from then on. He screamed and yelled at Hannah. We ran off down in the dirt back and forth. We were at the B-25. We had 3 students. And 2 of the students had to sit down here, and the floor of the cockpit was about there. And all you can see is up through the window. I can see the water tower passing by every now and then. And he screamed at Hannah till he couldn't talk anymore. So he pointed at me, pointed in the seat, we went home. And from then on, I got to fly first, and then he got to scream and Hannah last. And this great poor guy feathered one engine when the other engine was cut off one time. You ought to hear a B-25 with no engines. He fed, yeah, well, I could see that till now. You're supposed to go through this procedure where he's jerked the mixture on you, and you know, got a loud look. They said, "Okay, fine." You know, when one leg is straining to keep it straight, and you find the dead leg, and that's the dead engine. And he slept that right leg. I could see the sun, the dust flew off his leg, you know. And he feathered the left engine. And you don't hear a left engine feathered full throttle. And finally, poof. And the guy says, "Now look what you've done." You know, and the other student was up in the nose, and about that bit, he came out that little long crawl way. And he grabbed me by the pants leg, and he looked in my face to see if I was scared yet. You know, of course I was. I got it cranked up, but I made it through the B-25. Loved the B-25. Flies just like a Cessna 150. And I went to the C-97 school in Randolph. And that was a big old airplane. I tell you, you had to go in, climb upstairs, walk up to the cockpit, and it was so big that you walked up to the chair, pilot or co-pilot, by the window, and then got over in the chair. It had that much room on either side, and you couldn't reach each other across the cockpit. It had 10 million switches for 10 million systems. Most complicated radial engine ever built. Fuel injected, turbocharged, supercharged, water alcohol injected, 4,000 horsepower. Now the airlines went broke, Pan Am went broke just about trying to run the 3,000 horsepower 4360s. Imagine when you put it full throttle, keep it that way, which is our duty. Now, got through that fine, no problem. Went to Little Rock Air Force Base. Brand new guys, right? Nobody tells you anything. So we go out, we finally muddle around, almost killed ourselves 3 or 4 times. And then summer, gosh, they had no idea about density altitude back then. So the airplane gross weight was 175,000 pounds. So that's what you got to load it up to every time, winter or summer. And we were just barely clearing the trees, full throttle, and had cowl flaps. The engine was hot. You open the cowl flaps up to 3 inches. Okay, 3 1/4 inches that stalled out the whole airplane. And you had to have it at 3 inches. So we step climb 50 foot at a time, and our mission was we had to support a B-47 training school. 16 tankers and about 40 B-47s. So 6 hours of it was spent at full throttle, trying to we get up to 13,000 sometimes. That's as high as we could get it. It was fueled all the way up and all the way down. And I was so glad to get out of that airplane. We went to Goose Bay every other 2 weeks. And stayed 2 weeks. So I was gone 50% of the time to Goose Bay. Flew that thing when I was back, and we flew a lot back then, not like now. And going to Labrador was a real trick. You couldn't go anywhere without having refueling. So we'd take off at 9:15 in the evening at Little Rock, fly all the way to the East Coast, have refueling somewhere along the way, and always to Charleston. And then we'd go up the East Coast, cross, and finally get to Goose Bay at 8:15 the next morning. And when the sun comes up, you can't, after 9 hours, you can't get your eyes open. So I hated that flight. Did that for years and years and years. Come time for me to check out as aircraft commander. I was a co-pilot. I had 1,500 hours. Okay, I didn't want to do it. Got 1,600 hours, and an operation came up that we heard about. Hey, they got 135s. I see those things flying over. They had them about a year, I guess. I'm going to 135s. They said, oh, we're going to check you out as aircraft commander. I said, bull, I'm going to 135. So I did. A wonderful airplane. So I got to go to Castle, and my first ride in a jet. Can you remember that, Jim? My first ride in a jet. We get out there and line that sucker up. It's noisy. Push the throttles up, we go down the runway. And we going, wait a minute, this thing's still humping down there about 10,000 feet down the runway. Raise the nose up here, and oh my gosh, off the ground it come. And we leveled off at 500 feet and accelerated because we had water injection on that too. And get up to 285 miles an hour, 85 knots after the climb. And somewhere about 210, it got quiet up there in the cockpit and the control system. And it's just, I couldn't fly the airplane. I'm watching the ground go by. That's the first I've ever been in my life, Matter of fact, 174 knots on the ground before you left, And I learned to love that airplane. And it saved me so many times, and I gave it so many opportunities not to. We finally got checked out, brand new crew, went to Columbus, Mississippi. And we were the new guys. They hadn't had anybody there in 4 years. And so we were the new guys, Okay, every time we got ready to go fly a mission, we're all checked out. But there'd be somebody with us, a flight instructor. He'd be sitting in the seat. Oh, I'm just going along, getting my flight time, Yeah, right. And we did that 3 or 4 times. We got up one night, bad weather, always bad. There's thunderstorms and lightning, so we said, surely they're not going to make us go. New navigator too. Well, if you can see a hole in the radar, and go ahead and go. And of course, they knew better than that. We didn't. You can't see good on the radar when you're on the ground. So we got airborne, and just about nosed her over and hit the first thunderstorm. It was nasty. It was rolling around. We're trying to get the flaps up, trying to go. And about the time we got it where we was going to go, about 250 knots, the windshield lit up. And it looked like when you got wax on your windshield and rain runs up it, well, it was fire. What the heck is that? And my Don Wizard or my old like I said, I don't know, but I don't like it, And we didn't like it. We went thunderstorms, icing all night, no help. Nobody come out to help us that time. And we learned a little bit about how not to take off when the thunderstorms are there, you know. I always did anyway. And we flew that airplane. I learned to find that we iced up. I got iced up one time in my life in an airplane. It was at Columbus, Mississippi. They sent us to New Orleans. Tops were over 60, reported by U2. And we couldn't get, I was supposed to get to 24,000. This was when they first put in the positive area control, it was 24,000. Couldn't get there. Okay, give you 23 and we'll get you a higher altitude later. Never got a higher altitude. And the thing iced over, the nose iced over, and there's one little window back here that you can see out of. Kept shining my flashlight out and looking at the ice, and it was plenty iced out there. Well, pretty soon we said, we gotta go up. Couldn't give us any altitude. I said, well, we got over here, black weather warning area, got nearly to New Orleans, and I said, hey, I'm declaring an emergency. And they said, well, we don't have any room for it. I said, tell you what I'm gonna do. I declare emergency, I'm going north. I'll accept any altitude you can be up. And couldn't climb anymore anyway. So finally, I headed north. He finally come back and says, well, we can give you flight level 470. And I said, I'll take it. You know, climb about 50 feet a minute. We flew about 200 miles, came out of the clouds, and about another 100 miles later, the ice went away. But learned from that. We had the first positive area control was at Chicago. And I remember the navigators had them a cutout of the positive area control. They put over the whack chart and they draw that outline, and it's like, don't go there, it's something new. I had to refuel a B-58 one time, and I was the first guy to have to go there. I got up there, they didn't need position reports, they didn't need anything. They just said, okay, just go ahead. And I got back and said, hey, give me all my flights up there. I don't have to do position reports or anything. So we learned a little bit about that. And the Vietnam business, you know, when the 97s, I was gone 50% of the time. We'd fly to Goose Bay, do 2 weeks alert, fly back 2 weeks home. Goose Bay, 2 weeks alert, so it's bad. And Columbus, we did alert every other week. We do alert over there. Then we started doing TDY. And the first TDY, that's temporary duty otherwise, was in the C-97, had to go to Azores. Nobody in the squadron had ever flown over water. Well, we flew over the north, but we didn't fly over water. So the whole squadron had to deploy. And being the junior crew in the squadron, we got last choice on the airplanes. Matter of fact, had to go to Hunter Air Force Base, and the order says, give us a good airplane, no gigs, no this, that, and the other. We went over to Hunter, picked up the airplane, lost an engine on the way back. Got to the rock, changed the engine. Went out, was go 15 airplanes, 1 minute apart, was going to Bermuda. Everybody took off but us. We lost an engine on the runway. Went back, changed the engine. Went out, pre-flied that sucker again, had a bad fuel leak on the drop tank. Okay, they changed the drop tanks. And then we looked, they had a fire on the other engine, tried to start it, had to change another engine. So we're 3 engines down now, and we're by ourselves. So we went to Bermuda, and I'll never forget Bermuda because it rains. The drops are this big around, the sun's shining, and you look up and you can see that sucker coming. You know, it's the first time I ever seen that. And we stayed at the St. George Hotel. That was an experience too. We landed at, I think it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. And they put us up at the St. George Hotel. We were so tired and beat up. It took like 9 hours to get there. Got in the St. George. 6 o'clock next morning, bam, 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 on the window, on the door. Go away, we don't want you, know. And the smell of onions, you couldn't believe how strong the smell of onions were. We were right above the galley. Okay, bang, bang, bang. What do you want? Get up, we want to make your bed. The maids was going to roust us out, you know. Took off out of there, lost an engine. Had to come back. And by the time we lost the engine and tried to climb to 13,000 feet, which was, you had to go to one altitude back in those days, that's all you had all the way across, not like nowadays. And we lost the engine. By the time we got back, we were out of oil. Totally out of oil. It burnt. We had 32 gallons in each engine fuel tank, 56 gallons of oil in a central oil tank that you could fly. And we had two 55-gallon drums and three 5-gallon jerry cans. We'd used it all up before they knew it. The engineer says, "Hey, we're out of oil." You know, there we are out over the Atlantic somewhere. Declared emergency, come back, worked on the airplane some more and started out. And the next time we're supposed to go 11 hours to the Azores. Nobody had been over water. We got out to the first, I think, of 2 hours and had to get a position report. Navigator got it with the sextant, was going to shoot a speed line. Well, this sextant's broke. Okay, we got a spare. Pulled the spare out and it was clouded over. So we had no sextant. Navigator gave up. He did. So somebody decided, hey, we got a Lorenz C. Nobody ever used the Lorenz C. Nobody ever even knew what it was. It had a trailing wire antenna 2,000 feet. You stick out the back of the airplane. We went back, searched all our passengers and found a radio operator. Got him to stick the wire out. Okay, the last fix Navigator had, we were about 100 miles north of course. The only fix, you had two sine waves. You had to build and get together and all that on the scope as a mess. It showed us south of course. So where were we? Had no idea. So we just plugged on. And when it come time that we ought to have been to the Azores, a lot of islands there, you ought to have found something. It was solid overcast. Nothing in sight. And the radios, I forgot to mention this, every time you key the HF twice, you could get one check in. You key the HF next time, it'd short the whole system out. Did that every time. So we had no radios. And we're an hour overdue, we still don't have nothing, but you know, the old piston just had something that the jets, I never had in the jets. We knew that if we flew long enough, we'd find Africa, Spain, England. We had enough to get there, so we pulled the thing back, read the manual for the first time, and best range cruise was 1,300 RPM on the engines. Now here's an engine that the only radio I ever flown that was 2,700 RPM for takeoff. 1,300 RPM, and it was like 3.2 to 2 gear reduction. And you could see the propellers going around. And it didn't vibrate, but it made a funny noise like drive you crazy, you know, it's going to break or something. And we got 2 hours overdue. We were alerting, where's the landfall? We'll figure out where we are. No clouds in Africa, we'll find that. And looked up, just coming up daylight, way the heck up there, about 45 off the nose, there's a little speck. And the clouds out there are just about like this floor. And we said, what's that? Then figured out, the speck moved a little bit, moved a little bit, moved a little bit, and said, listen, that speck's white on one side and black on the other, you know. So we went back, searched the passengers again, and came up with a set of binoculars and looked up there, and that was ground, you know. And we said, what's it got to be? You know, it's got to be above 7,000 feet. And just sticking up through there, and it clouds on one side out, and it was Pico, which I think I read that's the tallest mountain in the world. It's in the trench. It's in the Azores, but the Azores is a deep part of the ocean. It was a little volcano. And Navigator said, that's the only thing out here. We head that way. And went over there, no communications. And we had said, well, we just got to get down low enough to get under it. We figure out where the island is. The radar didn't work either. So we jumped down on that son of a gun and took a fix, dead reckoning fix. Navigator says, you ought to be off the end of the runway. Runway runs from water to water. And we got down and it kept going down, kept going down, kept going down. And about 500 feet, we could see the ocean. So we sneaked on down a little further, and sure enough, there it was. Turned a little bit, landed that sucker, and that aircraft commander of mine made the worst landing I've ever been through. He did, home, you know, bouncing about, and it finally quit because it couldn't fly anymore. You know? And they had B-17s, the Portuguese had B-17s, their rescue airplane, and they had them all out looking for us, and nobody could communicate. I tried to one time. We had a Morse key on the side console there, on the window, and it had one radio that nobody had ever used. You could hear on HF, not sideband. You could hear them calling for us, but you couldn't answer them because you couldn't transmit. And so I tried that, beep, beep, it was going to do it. So I put SOS, and they got complaint. Get off this radio, whoever's doing it. So I gave that up. And, that was my first trip over water. The 135s was a little easier. Took off Columbus, Mississippi, the first one. Of course, I was there about 3 months and went to Vietnam. And one trip before that, we took a load of F-100s over there. Went out to March Air Force Base. It was like 135s, and over at Georgia's a million fighters, F-100s. They're all going to Vietnam, and we took them to Honolulu the first time, and they had to refuel 3 times. And after the first refueling, if they missed it, they could go back. And the last refueling, if they got it, they could go on, you know. But in between, they're in the ocean, you know, that's all there is to it. So we took them over there, stopped, got them all lined up again, and to haul them all the way, we had 4 to start with. And these guys didn't have autopilot. They'd be way out there, you know, yeah, we count them up, yeah, we still got them all. And you look up ahead, there's a cloud bank coming, and these guys had come. And by the time they hit that clouds, they were locked in on the wing chips, 2 and 2. And we did that and come back and then went to Vietnam. And the first flight to Vietnam was take off at Columbus, Mississippi, go to Hawaii, 3 hours refueling time on the ground, fly to Guam, 3 hours refueling time, then fly to Okinawa, about 22 hours. You're supposed to have a spare pilot, and the spare pilot they gave me was a squadron commander. And the reason he was squadron commander was he's a West Point graduate and he couldn't fly. So they put him up the ladder, right? I told him, stand back. I was just fine, no problem. So I flew the whole way. And we stayed there. We go all over the place over there. We go to Thailand. We go to Tockley, the North Thailand. And we flew missions that were supposed to be missions, you know, and pilots, the brotherhood, we took care of each other because nobody else would. And my heart really goes out still to the F-105 pilots. I go there every now and then to Tockley. They'd fly about every other day, and that squadron was 50% depletion by the time it left. And some of those guys I knew, got to know them real well, were on the 3rd tour. And in fact, one of the things that I remember most about the whole thing is this guy named Goebel and his friend were just inseparable. They were like twins. They were right together. And I saw them over at the bar one night. Well, our bar was a room with no windows and no floor and no air conditioning. It was the officers' club, a chow hall, you know, whatever, bar, the whole work. They were over there just having a heck of a time, beating on the table and all this. And I went over to talk to them, and they said, what's going on? You know, so well, we got the plan. They were gonna kill a Mac pilot, the first one they saw. And secondly, if they couldn't find a Mac pilot, they would kill a B-52 pilot. And they'd gone down, one of them had 99 missions, and the other one had his 100 missions they were gonna do to rotate home, and the guy that had 99, he wasn't going. He wanted to go on R&R, which he wanted to go to Okinawa. They went down to the Mac terminal and told them they had to wait 24 hours, you know. Airman two-striper had to wait 24 hours because that's the rules. They could C-130s and C-141s going out empty without them, you know. I said, shoot, I can fix that. I said, if you can keep your mouth shut, which I knew they couldn't, just go out and get on this airplane tomorrow. I'm due to rotate back to Okinawa tomorrow. I'll take you there, you know. Don't tell anybody because if you ask, they're gonna say no, because we gotta refuel it. Okay, they come out the next morning, I got on my airplane, they're going, I took them to Okinawa, and then everybody that's in my airplane, everybody, always got a shot at sitting in the seat and flying the airplane. And most L pilots are like that, except one. And these guys, they got the seat over there, the Goebel, he's got the seat he put. Like that, you know, I said, what's wrong? He says, the dang formation of engines after me over here. I guess they did watch over their shoulders. And hit that 99th mission. I said, why did you fly the other mission? You know, that's a given. The 99 missions, you know, they're going to take him out like that. They're going to be all around him. As soon as he gets across the border 1 foot, they're going to say, pickle. He's going to pickle his bombs doing them. And then they're going to escort him back, and that's not that. He's sure to make it. He says, I ain't going to make it. Straight face. You know what I'm thinking? I don't hear anybody say that. Yeah, you're going to make it. No, you're going to make it. I know I'm not. You know, going to have a good time this time. I didn't hear from Goebel for 4 months. Couldn't find out for any of the guys what did he make it? No, couldn't find him. Come home and I got tasked to go to Turkey, Idlib, Turkey. To check out a 105 squadron of refueling so they could fly back. And it's about 6 hours to Spain. So I stopped in Spain, about another 8 hours over to Turkey up through the Mediterranean. And guess who's at the pool? There he is, him and his buddy sitting right there, you know. I went, gosh dog, you made it. I'm so glad. He says, well, we're in trouble, you know. What else is new? They were overextended. They'd been down to Madrid having a good time, and they couldn't get back to Turkey on time. They were going to be AWOL. To get to Turkey, you had to catch the C-97 on Wednesday that went to Paris. In Paris, you had to catch a train to first until Germany. Then you had to catch a C-54 to someplace in Italy. Then you had to do something else before I got there. You know, Turkey's a long way. And I said, when do you get back? And they, tomorrow. Idiots. And I said, hey, don't worry about it. I'll carry you to Turkey. Your good buddies like you, they said, yeah. I said, oh, really? I'll carry you to Turkey, you know. Had to take them outside the officers club, walk down where I could look up to the flight line and prove to them I had an airplane. There it is. I said, be on the airplane tomorrow. I'm leaving at 7:30 in the morning, okay? They were there, flew them straight to Turkey, landed, and their squadron commander, old Jack, you know, full curl. He was so proud to have them there. He says, I sure would have strung these boys up. He said, boy, you won't jump. Anything you want. And I said, I want to ride in one of those things. And he says, done. Up shows us colonel, lieutenant colonel. The fighter pilots have a code 269. Staff never caught on to that for some reason. Code 269 says, oh, here comes a second lieutenant, lieutenant colonel. Either one of them was bad news. So this lieutenant shows up and he says, say, I'm the SAC liaison commander, and you guys are under my command. And I said, what do you go command us to do? We're here to do refueling. We're already scheduled, you know. And Jack's trying to run him off, and he wouldn't run. And finally, somebody told, well, Jack said, he's going for a ride, and you can talk to him when he gets back. No, he's not. You know, ordered me to stay on the ground because what if somebody come by that needed refuel, you know? And I'm pushing on the co-pilot like this, and they got the idea. I took the co-pilot out, you know, and while me and the colonel's arguing, I said, I can't go fly. He said, why? I said, I don't have an intact crew. Well, you came here, what? Yeah, I said, yeah, but there goes my co-pilot, right there. Oh, God, he was mad. And the co-pilot, like, they had a heart attack because they have this game they play in the fighter business. You go out and make a flight, and one of your friendlies acts like the enemy and jumps you somewhere along the way, right? And he got jumped, and he said, bandits, bandits, and they're down around those old rocks. Turkey's nothing but a pile of rocks. They're down there at the Black Sea going around those things. They used to go pilots do videos. I was going to get shot down on it. But we got back from that, and we had, I don't know, the 135 was such a wonderful airplane. I ended up getting a little over 10,000 hours in it. And I didn't do that by taking a desk job. I go, when I get a transfer, I'd go in and tell the squadron commander, I'll do anything you want me to on the side, but I quit if you don't let me fly. Oh, you wouldn't do that, you know, and I would have, you know. But I got to fly all the way along. When I ended up at Castle, had students, and those students learned me a lot about flight instructing. And some about flying too. The innovation they could come up with and keep it around their flight instructor. Flight instructor's the last to know. Flight instructor's the last to get asked a question. You learn what your students needed by talking to the other students that were their buddies, you know. That's the way students are here still. Did 4 hours, 4 years there, went to Offutt Air Force Base and got my butt kicked for the first time. I never was having trouble anywhere, anything in anybody's airplane, flying it, and now I've been had. The first air refueling on load, that airplane did not want to be there. It wanted to go everywhere, and I keep saying, what's going on here? I'm all over the place. He said, what's the way it acts? I said, I see the way it acts, you know. How? He didn't know. And I finally got under there and finally figured out enough I could get on there and all over the place. I could get had to get 85,000 pounds on load to get qualified. And after about the 5th flight, I hung on there for 20 minutes and got my 85,000 pounds, but I don't think I ever sat down on the seat. I mean, this was stressful. And we got off of there, next thing you know, it says, well, we're going to have a check ride. Okay, what? Pass my check ride. I said, man, you don't need to be passing me on this check ride. Look, I don't know what I can do. I need some more flights. She said, oh, you're done. 2 flights later, went up, hung on the thing. It's still stressful. I'm now a flight instructor. They're refueling. What are you talking about? And I worried about that, and I finally figured out what it was. And it all had to do with wake turbulence. We got the like airplanes, we got like wingspan, and these engines warp the wings like that. So the man downflows directly underneath the inboard part of the airplane. You fly up under that sucker, it looks like he's diving on you anyway. So you got to get used to that. And now, if the airplane gets 1 foot offset to the left, it wants to roll violently to the right. So you had to keep it from going back, let it go back easy. And once I figured that out, I got pretty comfortable with it. And it got to be where that was the ultimate pilot operation. I loved every second of it.
What aircraft was that, John?
Hammond.
Was that in a 135 or you were?
Yeah, we had 135s, the EC 135s and RC 135s at Offutt. They had a boom and they had a receptacle. So you could do it either way. It was a very comfortable feeling because nobody was ever out of gas in that squadron. Whoever was up there, even a regular tanker, we could reverse refuel through the boom. It was real trouble. But this, the ECs, you always had fuel, you know, never had a problem. But we had to fly 24 hours a day. No downtime, no weather time. It was there, it was fly when you go fly. So a lot of times we flew, they call it doubles. You had to have 8 hours on station. And then there was takeoff, climb out, landing, and all that. So it was like 9-hour flight. And when somebody couldn't get off or when you couldn't get back because of weather, you flew a double. And they launched somebody out, you got to take over another like 90,000 pounds or something and fly another 8-hour shift. So had lots of doubles. Went to Alaska, flew I don't know how many 15, 16-hour missions. My first one was we got smart. Too soon old, too late smart. We were smart. We were going to fly from Guam back to Mississippi, one flight. I happened to look at the data and said, you know, we can make it. The winds are always light and variable until you get to Hawaii, and then we got a tailwind coming in. We can make it. And we did. We took off, and we flew 15 hours and 15 minutes, and ended up at the Memphis VOR for a penetration into Columbus thunderstorm over the field. Not enough fuel to wait. We had to go back to Clinton Sherman, Oklahoma, and land to get fuel. And we got the worst customs inspection I've ever seen anywhere from an officer at Clinton Sherman, Oklahoma. He only quit when my squadron commander got out and said, okay, let's have at it. He's an ex-fighter pilot. He's going to solve that business right there.
Guts and glory.
But anyway, I ended up, I retired from Omaha. I just decided I'd had enough. You know, there's other things to do. Two things made me retire. They changed the pay business, which they've been changing ever since. Made it a whole lot harder to stay in the Air Force and a whole lot harder to go the full spiel. But they made it, if I retired before the end of the year, I would make the same money if I stayed in another 5 years. I could get the same retirement, so that's pretty much a no-brainer. And they wouldn't give me the 747. I wanted to fly the 747, which had just got there, and they said, well, yeah, we can do that, but you got to commit for another 6 years. And I said, can I just have a cockpit trip? Can I just go look in the thing of it? I volunteered one time stupidly for B-58. I loved that airplane. Everybody that flew it was scared to death of it. Their voice was about 3 octaves higher, you know, and they were just always keep the field in sight when they were first checking out. They didn't get on sight of Carswell. And then we had one guy come through one day and he can't see out. So if he overshoots you, which is a real good idea, we're doing 525 knots, and he just said, right on by me. I said, hey, you just passed me. He said, well, I'll just slow down. I said, why don't you just do 45 left, 90 right, 45, and I'll tell you when you get behind me. Well, I'll just slow down. And he stuck the nose up like that. That thing was sitting just there, and we overtook him, come back, and he had a normal voice, and I said, hey, you're not checking out this thing, are you? He said, oh, I'm a company test pilot. The others couldn't get it below 320. He could get it down to 255. And I wanted that airplane so bad, I give him, say, wait a minute, all right, now fly up here and let me look at that thing. And he'd fly beside me and look over, and gosh, that's a pretty airplane in flight. So I went down and says, what does it take to go fly B-58? He says, just ask. They're looking for 135 pilots to fly that thing. They're the best ones. And I said, sign me up. And I got signed up, went back to, I was on work, told somebody what I did. I said, oh, no, you didn't do that. I said, yeah, I want a piece of that airplane. They said, hadn't you heard? Heard what? No, I always hear about stuff like that. They said, they're phasing that thing out next year, and all those guys are going to have to go to B-52s. I went back. I told that guy, I said, give him my paperwork. He said, it's too late. And I said, ain't too late. I see it laying there, and I'm bigger than you are. And I walked around the desk, and I got it and tore it up, because I didn't want to fly B-52s. That's the only airplane that I ever didn't want to fly. And the reason I didn't want to fly was twofold. I would have gone out and shot some landings and played with it easy. But the only flight I had the opportunity to fly was 26 hours. They take off here, fly around the dang world, come back, 26 hours flight. They call it Chrome Dome. We have an airborne alert all the time. So I didn't do that. And I Retired, I had a job I wanted at Offutt. I was a chief flight instructor, and they had airplanes on the other end. We had a squadron of ECs, we were haul the general around, all the go codes, the full command post, and the other guys were secret. They only had 3 crews for each particular airplane. Each particular airplane was a different, totally different airplane, totally different performance, totally different handle. So one guy couldn't go fly on the other airplane. One of those 3 crews had to fly. There's one guy that had problems refueling. And I'm doing the stand-up briefing for my squadron commander, who's AWOL somewhere. And he says, we've given him all the training we can. We're not allowed to. And the general says, well, what do you propose? And they said, can we give him one more flight? The general said, who you gonna get for a flight instructor? And the squadron commander for that squadron says, him. And I said, whoa, 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 wait a minute. I'm not qualified in that airplane. I can't get on it. I don't have a clearance for that airplane. The general looks around and says, what does it take to get him a clearance? Says, your signature, sir. Said, get me the paper. So I ended up hated that airplane. It shook all the time. Its maximum altitude was about 23,000 feet. It had growth solid, had that big old, you see picture of that big old nose on the thing, looked like Snoopy or something. It had antennas down the side, big old growths along the top, looked like the top of a derby hat cut out of the bottom. It was 102% degradation factor on it. Had takeoff at just about a third gross weight and hit the tanker immediately to stay up there. And it cruised, I think about like 20-something thousand pounds an hour that thing would burn. And it shook. It never quit shaking. So I said, okay, my deal. You don't do your thing and you come back and make a landing, and me and this guy will get on it. We go straight up, do the refueling, and we come back, I get off this thing. You know, I don't want on it. So that's what we did, 2 flights. And I got him to where he was real bad. I got him to where I explained everything to him, helped him put over here, said, I'll keep it here, you so your job is to not let it go back center. And he finally, the airplane didn't fly good start. He finally got it where he could hang on. I said, well, just hang on in there a minute. And he hung on, and he hung on, and he hung on. And about 10 minutes later, he says, man, I gotta quit this. Yeah, I'm tired. His shoulders hurt, it's bad. And he dropped off on it, and I said, well, I think you can pass your check ride right now. And the guy in the jump seat says, he just did. I'm the check pilot. So we got this guy passed. But man, there's a story every 2 seconds from a lot of people, and I sure would like to hear. I'm going to enjoy hearing from Buzz, who's a Vietnam vet also.
Buzz saw you.
Who got shot down doing something he ought to have been doing. And I'd like to hear from Jim and all these guys and everybody in here. I'd like to hear your story. And I'm sorry I took up so much of your time, but here I am and still enjoying aviation, and I'm going to do it as long as I can. All right.
Can we video this?
Too late, it's already
Well, I
gone.
know, but it's a shame to hear all these stories that were not recorded. I mean, Joey.
You're not gonna stay for the drawing?
That's pretty easy to do.
That's something you can do.
If I'm around, that's been my problem.
You can show somebody else. I mean, really, this needs to be recorded, guys.
Hey, Rick, it's been done if you allow me to post it.
Wow, thank you. I didn't have a clue.
Great.
Great. Will, you're the man.
Yeah, that
You're
ought
the man.
to be, well, we could,
Yeah.
It's
You gotta
okay,
watch- you
it's
gotta-
okay if I put this on YouTube?
Hey, I don't have that authority. I mean, John does. I mean,
Okay, John, you gonna let me put this on YouTube?
he can, don't know.
He wants to know, can he put your recording on YouTube?
Yeah, sure. Is he recorded?
Yes.
Hey, you gotta watch out, he's a sneaky bastard.
I mean, that's wonderful. I mean, that's
A
wonderful.
buzzard.
Yeah.
I was meant to say buzzard.
All right, any other
We already
comments?
had this conversation.
Okay.
Let's draw
Time for lunch.
Okay, That's the airplane you got now, right?
Oh, yeah. This is my baby. This is Sweet Pea.
All right, and it's going on this wall right here.
Yeah. Good to see you back here on the back row.
Okay.
Right there.